Welcome back, ladies and gents. Today we are going to be diving into not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 altcoins that you should be paying attention to in the month of October and beyond. What we're going to be doing in this video is identifying 6 altcoins that have technical patterns that they've ultimately broken out of and are now about to embark on a journey to the upside, i.e., in layman's terms, go up in price, having set up a continuation pattern or a pattern that's led to a breakout that's very likely to result in upside. Some of them upside to the tune of potentially 200+%. Now, I'm not saying that's entirely going to occur in October, but certainly they are to be watched, having now broken out of this pattern, going into October, typically a very bullish time for the cryptocurrency markets, and November, which is also quite a good time for the crypto space. So these altcoins, these 6 altcoins we think are about to start performing, some of which have been quite lackluster up until this point, but that switch is about to now be turned. And of course, that switch wouldn't be able to be turned if the kind of dad of the space, the tide that still rises and sinks all ships, wasn't now on an upward trajectory. So those of you that follow me daily will know we've got lots of technical targets and confluence in regards to the direction we think Bitcoin is heading in. We ultimately think Bitcoin is in a broader uptrend that we've been on the right side of since 16K when we called the market bottom back at the start of 2023 and when, of course, we started re-entering the cryptocurrency market. Now, for the altcoin space, it's been a lackluster journey predominantly on a kind of general basis. Some done very, very well. We know things like Sui and that are also doing well. Sui had already broken out. This video is really specifically focusing on 6 altcoins that are broke out and still very much in that early stage and have a lot of that kind of upside to go. They're not already 100, 200% up like the likes of Sui and some others out there. But Bitcoin is in a general broader uptrend, and our opinion has been is that this is just a pullback in what is a broader uptrend. And you can see we're pulling back in a very typical fashion, descending, broadening like structure. And throughout this structure, the altcoins that we're going to talk about have really just given way to Bitcoin's weakness. So they overperform Bitcoin to both the downside, and the good news is they will overperform to the upside. And then we're going to look at the technical patterns that they're in that kind of cement this. So if we put the altcoins that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about Algorand, we're going to be talking about Akash network, we're going to be talking about Dogecoin, Hedera, Filecoin, and ADA. They've all essentially done the same thing. They very much mimicked Bitcoin's kind of waves during this pullbacks in regards to its price action, but they've just not quite had the strength that Bitcoin has, and they've kind of not done as well. However, with Bitcoin, and our assessment is that Bitcoin is about to reassert. Remember, we actually have a smaller pattern on Bitcoin that is likely going to see it go all the way to the 84K range. Then we have those bigger patterns that we've just looked at. With this reassertion and this kind of end to the pullback that's coming up for Bitcoin, these 6 altcoins are about to get rocking and rolling. And the beautiful thing is that they all have technical patterns that dictate that. What I want to do now, guys, is talk specifically, now we've covered the kind of larger picture in regards to why these altcoins are going to do well on the reassumption or reassertion of Bitcoin. Remember, alt season isn't too far off the corner. I want to just describe and go into a little bit of detail in regards to the technical pattern that we are identifying. So, of course, we are talking about a pattern that is known as a falling wedge. Here is a basic schematic of a falling wedge, and you can see within this falling wedge there are 3 impulses, and this is how this wedge gets essentially formed and where it gets its name from. The first impulse is very overextended, very volatile. The second one is less volatile, and the third one, your volatility is really restricting. And this is the kind of pinpoint or sloping nature of the wedge in regards to a restriction. And you then get a breakout out of that. And it's very common if you look at the B zone here that you start to put in very marginally lower lows. You'll then put in a higher low. This will all kind of coincide, and all these altcoins that we're going to talk about today all coincide with essentially where or a breakout to come for these. And again, we've covered the large part, Bitcoin, what that's likely to do and what that means for these alts. And the beautiful thing is they all have technical patterns further confirming this. Let's throw up a couple of examples that we've previously called in the exact same manner of falling wedges before we dive into these. This is, of course, Ethereum Classic. Back in 2019, this was called by us. You can see those 3 impulses. Pay attention to that because it's going to be relevant in regards to these 6 altcoins that we're going to be talking about today. Of course, you have the likes of HNT, which is helium. We were also calling this before the break. You can see those 3 impulses, these kind of bottoming or marginally lower lows before you get that continuation. And then, of course, the next altcoin that I have for you guys is, of course, Cardano back in 2020. I think 21 or 2020. We might not have been going into 21 yet. Of course, the run-up that came out of this was on the back of the Alonzo hard fork. So we've kind of identified, and we'll leave the falling wedge schematic on the screen when we look at these individual falling wedges. We've identified the pattern that we're going to be looking at. Let's take a look at these altcoins, and let's start things off with altcoin number uno, which of course is Algorand. Now you can see some basing structure going on here. You know, this was your sort of low all around the time of the FTX crash. You flipped your 30 weekly moving average. You're kind of chopping in and around it. We expect this to be a phase one base that's ultimately going to lead to upside. We think Algorand will eventually start to perform. In regards to watching it for the month ahead, this is the falling wedge that we are identifying for Algorand, and it's very plausible, in our opinion, that you've actually broken out of this falling wedge. So you can see again here, 1, 2, 3 impulses, basing marginally lower lows, and now you've broken out. You're coming into a little bit of resistance, but you're likely going to start to embark on a journey that's going to likely see you take out the high that was made when forming this low. So you could be looking at 100% plus move for the likes of Algorand. Let's talk about altcoin number 2, and it is Akash network. Now, this is one that I've been discussing in my Patreons. We're big into the deep in sector. Akash network is a decentralized computing network. We have a broader structure that actually could see Akash in the big time frame do pretty remarkable things. Certainly, we're talking about 50 plus X's. However, in the short term, certainly as it relates to looking at the month of October, you can see Akash network is exhibiting the traits that we're looking for in regards to identifying a falling wedge. And it's exhibiting on the turning around of Bitcoin, that breakout structure that we're looking for, ultimately ready to send it to the upside. Again, you can see what we're looking at here. You've got 1, 2, 3. That volatility is restricting, ready for the break that we've now got, and that upside to continue. Just getting back to where it was is a 100% plus move. This could all occur in the month of October. We shall see. But these are some altcoins to absolutely be paying attention to. Of course, we've now covered Algorand. We've covered Akash network. Let's talk about altcoin number 3. We threw a meme in there. And the thing is with Dogecoin is Shiba Inu is doing the exact same thing. We did a video yesterday calling for meme season, and it's based on the larger memes essentially having base. Now, there's a kind of phase analysis. We do teach this in our market mastery course. We break the market down into 4 phases. Phase 1, break out into phase 2, textbook retest. You are now looking at that continuation. And this retest here is also at the pinpoint of a falling wedge. Again, what can we identify here? You guys will know exactly what it is we're looking at. You can see 1, 2, 3 impulses, bottoming. You've now broken out, and you're likely going to see that continuation. And for Dogecoin to get back to where it was, again, you're potentially looking at another 100% gain in the month of October. Let's now talk about one of my favorite altcoins, period. And of course, it is Hedera Hashgraph that we're going to be talking about. We've already done an entire video talking about this falling wedge that we're looking at. If we take a look at Hedera, again, you can see exactly what it is we're identifying. 1, 2, 3, broken out of this sort of descending trend line. And ultimately, you ran into a bit of resistance here. You'll push through this and see that continuation. And for Hedera to get back to where it was when it started to form the wedge is nearly a 200% gain. So this is absolutely one to watch, along with Algorand, Akash, Dogecoin. Hedera is one to be keeping your eye on. This is also sort of range low of your, we still think Hedera is in phase 1 support. Ultimately, big moves to come for Hedera Hashgraph, along with the other altcoins that we've mentioned. One that many of you may not be paying attention to anymore, but I think it is fundamental to not just the cryptocurrency space, but how we store data generally, is Filecoin. Now, Filecoin is a very interesting project. What we're really concerned about here is identifying this falling wedge structure that you've very likely broken out of. And remember what we spoke about at the start of the video. Bitcoin's largely leading this. And ultimately, why you've got a lot of similar structure for similar altcoins is because of the nature of what Bitcoin's done. It's caused this kind of a pattern to play out. It's essentially a pattern that you expect to break out to the upside out of, and this is all happening when Bitcoin's starting to sort of come out of its slumber. Remember, altcoins will overperform to the downside and the upside, and this is what we're expecting. So Filecoin at one point was all the way at $12 Again, you're potentially looking at, nearly a 200% move for this if it's to get back to all-time highs, which we think, not all-time highs, sorry, this high of the sort of wedge, which we think is quite plausible. If you want to get a falling wedge target, that's not taking you back here, but we think this sets off a broader uptrend and that next wave for the markets. You essentially take this high to this one and you'll apply it to the sort of point of breakout, which we think Filecoin has now exhibited. Let's talk about altcoin number 6. And I know this is going to be a fan favorite for many of you out there. Now, this is one of the weaker falling wedges. However, I still think it is applicable. And that, of course, is Cardano. Now, we do think Cardano is going to do well with the rest of the market. I don't think it's going to be the best performer, but I think it's going to do well. And if you look at the pattern that we're identifying again here, you can see it's very evident. One, I'd like to have seen this impulse, the second impulse, be significantly, have more oomph in it, but it is higher than the third. You can see third, and now you're basing, bottoming, breaking out, and ultimately you're setting up for some pretty serious upside in the month of October, in our opinion. Cardano back to its sort of range highs from here is 100% gain. So essentially what we've done is we've identified 6 altcoins that we think have a good backdrop to do well in, and there's technical patterns on, to ultimately see some of these altcoins do 100% moves in the month of October. Keep these on your radar, guys. We'll follow up on these and see how we progress throughout the month of October. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Don't forget to become a subscriber. A like and a comment is always appreciated. And if you want to take your journey a step further, find out what I'm buying. We have 100x altcoins in the Patreon, we believe. Do consider becoming a patron. That's it from me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to love and leave you on that note. Have a fantastic day wherever you are, whatever it is you're doing. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next.